Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tolerating my little bit of a delay today. I'm actually traveling and I'm coming to you live from a conference. So this is like a first for me. There are a lot of people interwebbing right now. So my hope is that my connection holds and that we're able to stay together. But if it gets weird, I'll just do my best and switch to my phone and who knows what. But anyway, thank you so much for being here and being a part of Joleen's Happy Time Craftcast. I am so excited to one, be with you, and two, introduce you to someone who, when you see somebody on social media and you look at them and you observe and you watch and you follow and you absorb the things that they do and what they have to say, and then you kind of become like enamored with them and you think that you've just you've just come across somebody really special and your ears perk up every time they come by your feed, that kind of thing. That's today's guest. Today's guest is someone who I just love every video that comes across my feed. I love her vibe. I love her tone of voice. I love her style. I love her aesthetic. I love everything that she does. And I cannot wait for you to get to meet her as well. So Stefanie Watts is my guest today. And she's like us. She is a thrift loving, vintage obsessed design enthusiast. And Stephanie believes that like every space tells a story, and she's so good at telling that story. She's passionate about collected interiors and finding treasures. Like we're going to talk to her about the mirror. She has this mirror that thousands of us are obsessed over. So I'm going to ask her about the mirror. But when she's on styling spaces, she creates art in her gardens where her creativity blooms. She's based in South Carolina and she shares her love for vintage and inspiring others to find beauty and the old. And she's amazing and you're going to love her. And I'm going on. And here she is, Stefanie Watts. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
Thank you
Jolene,
so much for
you
being
are
here.
just too kind. The
No,
intro,
I mean
okay?
it. I mean it. I mean every single word because okay, so here's the thing that gets me about when your videos come through my feed, and we're talking mostly for me TikTok. Are you anywhere besides TikTok?
TikTok, Instagram, try to explore a
Okay.
little red note. All of the
Right.
places.
Right. I am very brand loyal. I am like TikTok primarily. So you come across my feed. And the thing that I love is like you had this one video in particular and you said, let's talk about guest bathrooms. And it was like your delivery is just what I love is it's like such peace. Whereas I feel like I turn on that thing and I sound like a chipmunk. I just have like all this frenetic energy, which I don't always have, but in my videos I do. But like yours come across and I'm just like, oh, peace. I love
Well,
them. I
thank
love
you.
them. Love them. Love them. So how did your love for thrifting? Because the thing about your style that I've noticed is that it doesn't look thrifted, right? Like you've got such a cool, curated style. Like how did that start?
Well, there is an interesting story behind it all because it dates back to legitimately the 80s, okay? Late 80s, but 80s nonetheless. My mother-in-law, as a young bride, and we had no money, like no money. But my mother-in-law at the time, she would go to yard sales and she would bring us things every Saturday, like things that she would find. And so we had this little apartment and we really needed a little dining table set situation. And so one day she showed
Mm-hmm.
up with one. And I was fascinated, first of all, because it was perfect for this little tiny dining space that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't something I would have chosen for myself because I wasn't totally in love
Sure.
with the color, but it challenged me to integrate it into the space. And then from there, it just grew. and she was doing yard sales. I grew up in a town where we had access to really good quality yard sales. But
Sure.
then from there, you know, it transitioned. I was in real estate, and I would have properties where we needed to empty all of the contents. And back then, they weren't doing estate sales, or not in my community, they weren't.
Sure.
And I just hired this company that did kind of salvage work one day, and found out that not only did he do salvage, but then he resold the items. And I walked through his warehouse, and my eyes were like saucers. And that's really, between my mother-in-law and that experience, it just took off from there. So it's been a long time of thrifting, a lot of thrifting.
Well, but you also have like crafty jeans. Like
Yes.
you have like, right? Like you're a crafty girl,
Yes.
like a lot of us. And like, tell us about this little hack that you have with empty vessels. And I've seen you do a number of things. I've seen you turn them into flower pots or vases, and I've seen you turn them into candles.
All the things. I put tissues in them, all of the things. So when I was a kid growing up, I lived at the shore. Town was called Ocean. It's Ocean City, New Jersey. And in our community as kids, there was an arts and crafts program, and it was every Wednesday night. And every Wednesday night, people in the community went to this one particular church, and they taught all of the kids who came along to the program, they taught us a different craft, and all kinds of crafts. So I learned how to crochet, I learned how to sew, I learned how to knit, all of the things. But there were also opportunities to take thrifted items, or items that we had at home, and repurpose them in different ways. I can't take credit
Hmm.
for the vase that turns into a tissue
Right,
box, because that's another creator on
right.
TikTok that
But
taught
you've
me
got the
that.
vision. Yes.
Yes, but that arts and crafts program taught us really to see items not as trash, but to
Hmm.
see items as things, as what they could become. And so that's part of it.
Hmm.
So when I see something that's been discarded, I think about, is there something else that can happen here? Is there something else where we can reclaim this item and make it better?
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how that all happens in my head. Um,
Right. So it's almost like a, well, it's like an elevating, right? Like you're
yes.
taking something that somebody doesn't want anymore. We're going to elevate it and give it, which speaks to me really, really loudly. But you also know some things in, I would imagine, your travels and touch points with the discarded items. Like you have a trick for, is it cleaning silver?
Yeah, you know, I ran across that one time as well, where there was
Yeah.
um, this. Well, now I totally always use Barkeeper Secret and a magic eraser, because that works
Yes.
really well. But
Yeah.
there are certain types of silver, maybe
Mm-hmm.
plated, where you can put it in the sink with hot water, a piece of aluminum foil, and some baking soda, and it kind of
Yes.
creates a chemical reaction, and the tarnish attaches itself to the aluminum foil. And that's probably not the exact recipe, but I tried it, it worked. I was like, okay, let's do this. But
Yes.
then, you know,
That's one of your many videos I have saved where I was like, no way. And click the little save button. And I'm like, I had no idea because I see that kind of stuff at yard sales and estate sales all the time. And I think
yeah,
it's because nobody wants to clean it or, bring it
right,
back to life because we have this perception that it's going to be so hard. But
exactly.
like in the way that you display plates or tell me, can you remind me the name of your really cool, almost like they're not quite caricatures, but they're really bright. They're on metal and you collect them. They look like
Oh, you're
tin
talking about
plates.
the Couroc of Monterey.
Yes, yes,
So you know what's so
that stuff.
fascinating about that? That dates back to the 50s. So it's really
Yes,
vintage perfection. It's
yes.
mid-century. Couroc started in California, and it was a mom and pop company initially. But what was so incredible about it is they had all of these artisans. Each artisan would create a specific design on these resin trays. And they used wood and brass and seashells and sometimes coins. And they create these incredible works of art, these individual pieces. And I stumbled across two while I was thrifting at a Goodwill, and they were covered in God knows what. But
just
I
goo,
knew just based on the brass inlay that it was something special. I didn't know anything about Couroc of Monterey at that moment. I bought them home, cleaned them up, and then of course did the research. And with collections, for me, I think they're best when they're grouped together, just simply for me, because they have more impact. And I had those two. And then I started researching on eBay and also Etsy, and I would find unique ones because I wanted to have ones that weren't mass produced later on. And so now I collect them. I group them, but they're from the 50s and beautiful.
So Stephanie, tell me, is it Couroc or Couroc?
It's Couroc. It's Couroc of Monterey. And again, it originated out of California in 1950, 54 in that time period. And there's a range of prices now because people collect them. So I can find them as low as $20 maybe on eBay for one that may be a little more common. Or I can find them as high as a couple $100s. But I tend to shop a lot to get the ones that are a bargain. But let me just add to the story because there's something so sweet about it. I posted Couroc when I first started doing the collection. And then I get contacted in my comments by an individual whose mother created the cardinal. Well, it blew my mind because, I'm talking to almost the artist.
No way.
Yeah, it was crazy. So then, of course, I had to find the cardinal.
Don't you
so I go on eBay checking for the cardinal. Joleen, I found one that was an original still in the box, still with the tissue paper wrapped around it. It was just like this person dropped into my comments and sent it to me. It was unreal. So I treasure that one so much because it has such a beautiful backstory. Crazy.
Don't you? Okay, two things. One, I love that about social media. I love that so much. I think that's amazing. And I think that, social media, it gets a bad rap every now and again because it's tending to rot our brains and all that sort of stuff. But also it's pretty fabulous in the way that it connects people or, brings them together. And you got the cardinal and you talked to the daughter, like that couldn't have happened in any other way. I absolutely love that. And so I think what's also interesting is, and I'd like to talk a little bit about like your eye, because you have good eyes. You have very, very good eyes in that, like what you curate and pull together and what you find, because you're talking, right, mid-century modern, but then also the mirror. And I would say the mirror, the famous mirror in the bathroom of yours, definitely not mid-century modern, more like Victorian, right? Like that really heavy gold gilded mirror that we're all obsessed over. So talk to me a little bit about like how does a person blend, like you seem to blend these styles and eras quite effortlessly, even easier than I can even say the word. So like what's your thought process behind mixing and matching?
I really believe, I'm such a firm believer in this, and it's going to sound crazy, but I really believe that if you purchase items that you absolutely love, you will find a home for them. And typically for me, I only buy things that I love. And so when I do that, even if it initially it makes no sense, you say to yourself, okay, I purchased this, it's leaning very heavy contemporary, and I'm more sort of traditional. I dare you to put it in the space, because what happens is it
Right.
makes room for what needs to happen adjacent to it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have these items that you love, and a collection of loved, treasured things, there's something
Mm-hmm.
magical that happens when you put one part of that into a space. It's almost like building a quilt. Um, the
Yeah.
other pieces then show up that blend. Now, for someone who doesn't see it from an artistic perspective, I would say that you can train your eye to see
Mm-hmm.
what you want a space to become. And how you begin to do that is you can use Pinterest, for example, and start
Mm-hmm.
collecting spaces and pins that resonate deeply with you. And what you'll start to
Mm-hmm.
see with time is that there's a thread of
Mm-hmm.
continuance of items that you resonate to. And with that, then you can create spaces based on those Pinterest boards. But I think that I've been blessed
Mm-hmm.
with an artistic eye, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
obviously an artist as well. And I see it before it even happens. So I'm
Yeah.
answering your question kind of haphazardly, but I would challenge someone who says, I don't have an eye, to start with Pinterest, to
Mm-hmm.
just start pinning pins on boards that resonate
Mm-hmm.
with you. And by doing that, you're creating and developing an eye. Does that make sense?
Right. Like well, it makes perfect sense because I think that the same thing happens when one of the things that I get a lot is I get just happened today. I get, Joleen, you're so creative. How do you do that? How is someone so creative? And I honestly believe that creativity is got muscle memory. And I
Yes.
honestly believe that the more that you practice and the more that you try, the more that you are. Just because you're dabbling and working that side of your brain. So I don't know that I have any more, like in my cup, I don't know that I have any more creativity than anyone else. I just use it a lot. And
And
so
I'm
it's
going to,
a,
yes, I want to add to that, because I'm a firm believer in that
mhm,
as well. I was in this
yeah,
small town, and they had a community college, and the credits were dirt cheap. I can't even remember how cheap they were, but they were dirt cheap. And at the time,
yeah,
uh,
mm,
I didn't consider myself an artist. Interiors, that kind of thing. I had a skill set for sure,
yeah,
but I did not consider myself a person who could paint oil on canvas. That's just not something
hmm,
that I was. And I
right,
went
right,
and signed up for this class because I was curious and bored. And Joleen, I developed a skill set, just like you said, by working a different part of my brain that I had not
yes,
worked before. So I'm
yes,
a firm believer that you can develop a skill that you did not know you had by simply introducing it
agreed.
into your life.
Well, and I think that it can be like it can be creativity or it can be an artistic practice or it can be, I think it's just like we create these barriers that are like, I can't do that or I'm not that. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like the
Yes.
person who says, I can't draw, which would be me. I can't draw a cat. Like, you don't want me to be your Pictionary partner, but I'm a really good guesser. So so
Yeah.
I have other skills, but I also have never practiced drawing a stupid cat, right? It's just not a
Right.
muscle that I've stretched. So I think that
Yes.
like, especially when I'm talking to, like people who come to my retreats and they might feel a little, I don't know if the word is overwhelmed, but maybe just unsure that they can perhaps make some of the things that I make. It's it's something that comes up a lot where I just always say, like, you just have to stretch it. You just got to
Yes.
try. And
Yes.
also too, I'm curious on your thoughts about this. So for me, as an artist and a maker, crafter, creator, I don't really look at something with the lens of how long will this take me to complete. Like, I don't
Yes.
really have that level, right? Like, obviously, from the things that I make, they're fiddly and fussy, and some things can take months. But I wonder what, like, I don't know where that comes from. Do you ever consider how long something will take before you choose to participate in it? If it's an interior project or if it's an artistic project, like, do you have that scale?
I don't. And it's so interesting that you say that. I posted recently something about wallpapering a ceiling. And I
Yes.
had a commenter who said to me, was it hard? And absolutely, it
Hmm.
was awful. It was
Yes,
really,
I love that. I'm like, I will not sugarcoat it. That was awful. Yes, yes, I love
it
that.
was, it was really, really
Yeah.
hard. But what made it
Hmm.
easier was that I only did one sheet a day. So it was sort
Right.
of, it
I love
it
That's
was
awesome.
really it was an artistic expression for me,
Hmm.
and I agree with you completely. I
Hmm.
don't rush the process. So when I was looking up at the
Hmm.
ceiling and I'm thinking, okay, this is how we're going to tackle it. We're going to do one sheet, and we're going to be content with that one sheet, and we're going to go away and come back the next day.
So
And
smart.
it broke it down into parts
Hmm.
that were digestible,
Hmm.
that made it a lot easier to
Yes,
complete,
e-
you know? So I don't, I agree with
exactly.
you from an
Exactly.
artistic perspective. I don't rush
Hmm.
the process.
Yeah, I think I used to. Now that's not to say that, like, so I don't know, did you see my son that I completed recently? It
Yes,
was the one made out of book board. Um, Okay, okay. So that
magnificent.
thing took me a very, very long time to complete. And even though at the beginning I didn't think about how long it would take, I mean, that is not to say that I did not bitch and swear the whole time. Like, I wasn't,
Right.
I wasn't like the best to be around, but I didn't, ask that question in the beginning. I wanted it and I wanted to, to do it. And
Right.
I'm sure, like, as it was going, I was insufferable because it was so hard. But
Yes.
now, it's hanging in my office and it was on CBS Sunday Morning. And like,
Wow.
I love it. And I'm so glad that I did it. And I think that that's kind of like, I think it's kind of like it's the line that crafters and artists kind of walk where they're like, how long does that take? And I don't know how to better articulate my question to them of why does it matter? Like, I don't
Right.
know how to say that in a non-judgy way because it sounds really judgy when I'm like, why do you care? Sit down and make it. Like, I really need to think through, like, what is that? Like, what is that concern? I don't really have an answer, just that I'm not
Well,
wired that way.
I think because we have a focus just in general on the longevity of most things. And so it's
Hmm.
hard to think about
Yes.
it from the depth of the completion of a thing and what
Hmm.
you discover in that process and the
Right.
becoming of something, because we are definitely focused
Hmm.
on longevity. But the beauty of just letting something breathe and become is that you have these depth moments where you have to become better in that
Yeah.
moment in order to complete it. And then once you
Hmm.
do accomplish it, once you get to the other side of the project, there's just something so rewarding about it.
Hmm.
And I think as artists, that's probably why
Right.
we continue to do it. Because we want the reward on the
Right.
other side, and we
Mhm.
are intoxicated by the
Right.
becoming.
I'm willing to wait.
Yeah,
Yes, I am willing to wait for that big jolt of dopamine, like, because I know, you're gonna get there eventually. So, but Stephanie, of like all the things that you do and all the things that you make and create, like, do you have a favorite? Like, do you have a favorite thing of all the things that you do?
I don't think I do. I think what's becoming my favorite
Mm,
is the encouraging and inspiring of others. to even imagine that
Sure.
they too can do the same thing. And I'm going to use you as an example with
Mm-hmm.
the book
Mm-hmm.
folding, because that's how page folding, that's how I met
Yes.
you, or
Yes.
how I was introduced to you.
Yes.
It has this
Yes.
ripple
Through
effect.
Jen.
And I
Yes.
shared that with you, where
Mm-hmm.
it just keeps rippling out. So it just
Mm-hmm.
gives this legacy of design that's so fascinating to me. I was recently talking to someone else, and they were trying to
Yes.
figure out something to do with their book club. They do a little craft and read in this book club as well. She pointed out that she felt like the reading is kind of falling behind the crafting. And the first thing that came to mind was the book folding, because it's the type of craft
Yeah.
that one can teach easily, and then it again ripples.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this thought about just being encouraging and inspiring to others with thrifting in
Mm-hmm.
particular. The only reason why I started TikTok was I
Mm-hmm.
felt that people did not, they were quantifying when they
Mm-hmm.
should decorate where they lived, or when they should decorate a space. I'm going to do this when, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to decorate
Right.
when I get a
Right.
house, or, I don't have enough money
Mm-hmm.
for, or whatever the quantifier was. And I felt like there were so many
Right.
opportunities in the secondhand market to live in beautiful spaces now. Time and patience obviously is a big part of thrifting and doing secondhand marketing. I mean, secondhand
Mm-hmm.
market in terms of decorating a space. But there's something so beautiful about showing someone that they can love where they live today. They don't have to wait to love
Right.
where they live. It doesn't have anything to do with the
Mm-hmm.
size of the space, the type of the space, the community that you
Mm-hmm.
live in, any of the things that typically hold people back from living in a space that they
Mm-hmm.
love. And so for me, the encouraging and inspiring piece is what I love the most. And so if I'm doing that with my art, or if I'm doing that with thrifting, or if I'm doing that by showing someone how to change something discarded into something more, then I think for me, it's collectively all of it. Because I want people to
Yeah.
understand more than anything that there's something very powerful about today, and that you don't have to wait until tomorrow to love where you live. It doesn't have to be
Right.
big. It doesn't
I think
matter
that,
if it's less than your
right.
expectations.
I really love and appreciate your language about love because, it wasn't until you said it that I realized that there are a lot of people that I know that just kind of tolerate where they live and
Yeah.
how they live, and they don't actually love it. And I think that's kind of sad because, to your point, it isn't the size of the container or the community the container's in, or
Mhm.
even like necessarily what you have in it. I think it's like taking that inspiration to elevate what you can and where you can. And like there are ways to make it accessible to most all of us. And
Yeah.
it's just such a different feeling loving versus tolerating.
Yes. Yes. And I think that it's so easy with social
Hmm.
media and just comparison. Comparison is really the thief of joy.
Right, of
And so
course.
it's easy to compare what you have to what
Yes.
someone else has. But it's also important to imagine that there's so many
Hmm.
things that are being discarded today because of waste, and it provides an opportunity for other people to take advantage of what someone's
Hmm.
discarded and make their own spaces better. And it doesn't
Hmm.
matter if it's 200 square feet or 2,000 square feet. You can do it, and you can do
Right.
it affordably. It doesn't have to rob you of
Hmm.
all of your resources to live in comfortable spaces. Does that make
Wow.
sense?
You say it so well. You say it so well. And so, okay, I'm gonna embarrass myself right now, and I'm gonna tell you something that like I okay, this is the level of how much I enjoy you. So I can't remember. I don't remember when it was. I don't remember like I don't even remember what year this happened, but you did a video. And again, like I said, like when your videos come across and you'll just say, let's talk about guest bathrooms, right? Or whatever it is. And you capture my attention right away. Because again, I feel like I come on like such a like person who just is like wildly hyper, but I'm really not. So it's very it's very strange. But you come on with this piece and you're like, let's talk about guest bathrooms. And it was the one where you were tissue papering toilet paper rolls.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was like,
recently.
she's just so brilliant. Like everything is just beautiful and intentional and lovely. But anyway, but before that, you came on and you said, did some mod today. Steph, I actually cried. I cried at just how beautiful that video was and like how beautiful you are and how you shared like another part of your life. And I was just like, of course she did some modeling today because it was just, you're just so beautiful in so many ways. And I was just so happy to like know you in the distant, vicarious through TikTok way that I did.
It's, it's so interesting
I'm
because
crazy. I know. I
it really, the
I sound
whole
like a
modeling
total
thing
crazy
was
fangirl. I know.
hilarious. The modeling thing was so funny
It
because
those
it
images
was
were so
TikTok.
beautiful.
It was TikTok as the random
It was so
hair.
beautiful. It
Thank
doesn't
you.
matter. You look so beautiful. I felt like I knew a movie star. I was just like
It's
it
hilarious.
was just so beautiful.
That's so funny. But even, what,
I
the
know.
whole the tissue paper thing, right?
Yes.
There's that is such an easy solution. And I tagged it for a guest
It
bathroom
is.
because I think I posted it once before and someone told me it was so ridiculous. Who's taking the time to unwrap toilet paper in their bathroom? But I thought there's some people amongst us who like to keep a spare roll close by. And there's a way to do it to
Yeah.
make it look better. And it's so stupid simple because we
Oh, it's
all have
beautiful.
these
Oh
little
yeah.
8x4 dinner napkins that we're doing nothing with.
Yes.
And when I do have
Yes.
guests and we have people stay a lot, my kids come in or whatever, I don't want them searching for
Mm-hmm.
toilet paper. So if I just put
Mm-hmm.
decorated a little bit, I can leave it on the back of the toilet. It looks
Right.
cute and they don't have to go hunting if they need an
It
extra
looks
roll.
so cute. It looks so
Done.
cute. And you know what?
Right.
Those naysayers know nothing. Like because it looks so cute. And the other thing is like we use napkins and decorative tissue paper to Mod Podge, decoupage, like collage with,
Yes.
but we don't use all of them.
Nope.
So you have a whole stack of ones where you're just like, I've already made like a little artsy project with it. But no, I love that idea. And you just stick it in the ends and it looks so great. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But I love the intentionality and the deliberateness of the details. I think that's
Yeah.
why I'm so attracted to so many of the things that you do because they are purposeful. And that purposefulness like all comes together to create this really amazing experience. Like I love what you're up to. I
Thank
love
you.
it. I would never skip a video. Love it.
Thank you so
Hmm.
much. I
Hmm.
think that that's a
Like
big
so
piece
much.
too, the whole intentionality part of it. I think that we aren't intentional enough in
Yes.
general. And when you have an opportunity to do it with
Hmm.
space, it makes life make sense. And part of thrifting should be about being intentional. And so for me, I don't care what
Hmm.
size of space, it doesn't matter. If I lived, I've been blessed. I've lived in a
Right.
bunch of different spaces, but I've also lived in very small
Hmm.
spaces. And when I did live in a small
Hmm.
space, I was as intentional as when I lived in a large space. So I think that it's important to
Right.
just continue to encourage people because if you feel sad at home and you're not happy with how it looks, it's bad. It's not good for your health. It's not good for anything. So if I can help somebody just
Hmm.
see their space
Right.
differently or see how it can become differently, then
Mm-hmm.
that brings me some joy for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so when you said that you're very purposeful and you only buy things that you love, like what do you say to the folks, and I know a handful of them, who buy things just because it's cheap, and not because, and they don't necessarily love it. So, like, you have strategies on this. Like, how do you train your brain not to buy it just because it's a good deal?
Well, that goes back to, I mean, we're being repetitive in speech, but intentionality. Okay, what do I need and why do I need it? And then making a determination
Sure.
before you go out. You have to go out with a plan. What am I thrifting for? If that's what you're thrift, or
Mm-hmm.
if you're thrifting, or if you're looking for a bargain at, a normal retail store, is this something that I need? Do I have space for it? So I
Mm-hmm.
try to just be mindful in even how I present my own home to the public, because I don't want to show excess waste. That's not my goal. And there's
Right.
lots of times where I don't thrift
Right.
at all because it's not something that I specifically need. So I think, to
Mm-hmm.
answer your question more specifically, for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope it resonates with others, you have to be mindful of what you're bringing in and why. Does that make sense? What are you bringing in and
Yeah.
why?
Oh, no, it
Um,
makes perfect sense.
yeah, what am I bringing in and why? And how does this fit within my budget? Not necessarily what social media says my budget should
Mm-hmm.
be, but how does it fit
Mm-hmm.
into my budget? And so I have a mental list running if there's something that I want. And I also work with time and patience. I'm patient about creating space. I don't have the urgency to create a space in one day or in one month. I think that you create
Right.
waste that way. You're more likely to buy
Right.
things that don't have longevity, they don't have the same quality, because you have
Mm-hmm.
urgency. And with urgency, sometimes you have waste. So if you think about it, okay, this is the space I'm
Right.
trying to create. And for people who say they don't have eyes, then you're going to go back to your Pinterest board and say, this is the space I'm trying to create. How am I going to get there? And then you just start with the small pieces. Okay, if I'm doing a dining room, I know that obviously at some point I'm going to need a table. So my goal then may be to just go out and find a table. So it's just breaking it down, Jolie, into pieces that are digestible and not pieces that create lack because you're spending money that you should not be spending. And again, the major part of this,
Right.
patience, right? I don't need everything today. I don't have to have it all today. I can do one room at a time. And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of my theory too, is that the very best spaces
Mm-hmm.
they are created over time. They evolve. So
Yeah.
it starts out one way,
Over
and then
time.
hopefully with time
Mm-hmm.
it becomes what you imagined or what that Pinterest board told you it should be.
Yeah.
If that,
You are
you
such a
know,
good
kind of.
teacher of, like, no, really, you are such a good teacher of, like, ways to think about this, because even sometimes on social media, I'll see people do thrift hauls, and
Mhm.
it might be with clothes or maybe with other things. And I actually get a little overwhelmed thinking about, like, I do think that some of us thrift and buy just because it's cheap and
Yes.
maybe not because it's necessary or needed. And I think that it just takes that pause or that moment, or let's think about this for a second,
Yeah.
about the intentionality of it.
Hmm.
And I just feel like I'm noticing, certainly as I get older, that I don't like my spaces creeping in on me. Like,
Yes.
I don't want them filled up. I don't want something lining every part of the floor. Like, it's almost like I can't breathe, like I just need it not to be full of stuff. And I don't know that I always felt that way, but I'm learning it about myself, like why am and I definitely have learned that if my space is chaotic, so are my thoughts.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yes.
if I
You're
am not a
right.
little bit, and I don't mean like right? Like not even crazily organized or excessively clean. I just mean like the clutter that lays around, it gets
Mhm.
upsetting to me in the way that I process everything else.
Yeah, because there's a difference between intentional clutter and clutter. You know, you can
Right,
have intentional
right,
clutter, which is collections of things that you love and treasure and you want to be surrounded by. But then you can have clutter that is just filling voids
right,
for
exactly.
whatever you feel is lacking in other places. I think that there's something really profound when you get
Hmm.
to the point where you recognize things don't necessarily matter and that you just want to have an
Right.
experience in your spaces where you feel loved and people who come into your spaces feel loved. So when I do, I know for
Hmm.
me, when I'm building or creating a home,
Right.
it's more about experience for the people that live here and the people that we bring in. When I do like this stupid thing
Hmm.
with the toilet paper, right? When I do that, it's because I want my guests to feel valued and treasured, or I want
Yes.
them to feel
And it looks
loved.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Hmm.
everything that I'm doing at this point, and maybe it's based on, you know, where I'm at this point in my life, similar to your conversation, your comment previously. But the things that I'm doing now are really based
Hmm.
on creating experiences within my home for the people who live here and the people who come into it. I want them to feel love when they
Yeah.
come in. I want them to have an experience.
Hmm.
And how I create that is by making them extremely comfortable while they're here. So that's that's what it is. So when I go out and
Yeah.
thrift something,
You do.
yeah, it's about what is someone going to experience when they get here. Um, and now I'm to the point where there's not much that I need. So it's, if I go to an estate
Right.
sale, it's just really looking for more so art. I do a lot of art thrifting now because I definitely collect art, but I'm not
Yeah.
at the point now where I need furniture pieces. I've kind of gone beyond that stage.
Sure. Right. Right. Well, and it's kind of like I love what you said about it takes time and these spaces curate over time and
Yes.
to get the look and feel of what you do, like it's clear that you didn't go out and do that in a day. Like
No.
that took some time for it to unfold and even reveal itself so that you could find it and, bring it
Yes.
home. And I also love what you said about, and I'm going to even think about that in my own home because, my home is a little different in that it's definitely a public space where, people come for retreats. And and I agree with you. Like I want them to feel I want them to feel enveloped really in art and peace and love and like I don't it's not very fussy like there's like we don't even have TVs in rooms, it's intended to be quiet and where you can at least be alone with your thoughts even for a little while. But there are other times where I wish that it was a bit warmer. Like to curate a little bit more warmth. And part of it too, I think, is texture, pattern, and color, and some of
Exactly.
those things that
Yeah.
we haven't really thought about as much as
Yeah.
other things. But we'll get there. We'll get
Yeah.
there.
And
I
that's
know we
so
will. We just
easy.
can't do
That
it all
piece
in
is
like,
easy.
uh,
Yeah. That's the
right.
easy piece. The
Mm-hmm.
texture,
Mm-hmm.
um, the materials, the feel. You may
Right.
choose, wool in some areas, cashmere in some spaces that you may find that are, you want
Right.
someone to have more of a luxe feel or whatever. But those are the things, those soft things that elevate and separate. They just make
Yes.
people feel cozy. It
Yes.
makes a big
Exactly.
difference.
Exactly.
And I
I
think
love that.
most people want to feel cozy in a space. I know that there's a whole large
I think
segment,
so
and I have a
too.
couple kids like that as well, who really like minimalist design, but I can tell you when they come here, they're
Yes.
just
Hmm.
they're so happy to be here because they love the comfort that they feel.
Yes, exactly. I have some adult children in my life who experience and say the exact same things, or sometimes they say things like they'll say things like, "Mom, you have so much stuff." And I'll be like, Okay, that I mean it's a big house. It serves a big purpose. Like, okay, I get that." But then when I go and visit them, their stuff just kind of, like I was saying, lines walls and lines floors, and it's just like I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like, we seem to have something in common. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's all the
Yeah.
way it's contained, right? Like it's just so
Yeah.
different. But well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being with me today. Like time, like I said, it goes so fast. But before I let you go, I do have to ask you. I ask my guests the same questions and we end the same way. And I don't want to miss. I want to be able to ask you these same questions. It's kind of a tradition here on our little show. But what is your favorite word?
What is my favorite word? I'm going to say my favorite
Mm-hmm.
word is joy. Joy. I think
It's
joy is
awesome.
so much
I
about
also,
um, it contains it all, right? So it contains just
right.
love and wholeness and completion.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking a little bit about the hope of longevity and how focused we are on
Mm-hmm.
just longevity. But there's no promise of longevity. So if we focus, our
Mm-hmm.
our focus is on just being present for the people that we love, being present for
Mm-hmm.
our communities that we build online, and just really holding space so that other people can feel whatever
Mm-hmm.
joy it is that emanates from you, then I think we're better for that experience. I think happiness has a tendency to depend on
Yeah. I
happenings.
love that word. I think and I agree
Right.
with you. I think that joy is one of those I I think that joy is one of those basket words. Like it's itself and then it's so many other things too. Like I
Yeah.
love that word. I think that's a
Yeah.
great choice.
Yeah.
So
I
on
think
the
that I'm
other side of that then, do
constantly
you
in
have
pursuit.
maybe a least favorite word?
Do I have a least favorite word? Do I have a least favorite? I
Yeah.
think my least favorite word is definitely hate. Because, we could go on about that
Say
one
it
for a
again?
long time. But hate is my least favorite word because I think
Oh,
that you can find something in any circumstance to, at bare minimum, like. So it's such a
totally.
wasted word
Mhm.
amongst us. Um,
Right.
but it goes, of
Well, and
course,
I actually have
it's the opposite of joy. Joy is so much about ascension and
right.
light and love and health and well-being, and um, it doesn't depend on happenings. You can make a decision for joy. You can make a decision for joy. So I love that word, and I'm reminded when I'm in a place that doesn't feel joyful to just hold it within. You know.
Mhm. So
So.
I have an example. Well, I have an example about what you're saying about the word hate. So, oops, are we still together?
We are. I think you're cycling a
Oh, there
little
I
bit.
got you. I lost you for just
Mhm.
okay. Oh, well, that's great. That's awesome. Um, so I am at a place where, because to your point about hate, when you said there's something, right, we can find a little shred of something. Um, I am at a conference and I I hate beets. I hate them so much. I think they are disgusting. And somebody here had me try a different kind of beet. Like, try this, Joleen, maybe you'll like it. And I tried it and it wasn't terrible. But to your point, what I did love was I loved the color. I thought the color was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't think I no longer will say I hate beets. I can now say I don't enjoy the taste of beets, but I
Right.
loved the color. I thought they were absolutely beautiful.
Right. Right. It's that little paradigm shift that
All
created the
right, go ahead.
change.
All right. Well, okay, so oh,
It's you, Jolene. I think you're getting stuck. You're cycling a little bit.
I'm
You
so
still there?
sorry, friends. Our connection seems to just be ridiculous. Let me see if I can get, I think we're both freezing on each other, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
the
what's happening.
internet. Hello. Let me wait 1 second, see if I can get her back. And actually, I don't think it's Stephanie. I think it's me.
Yeah, I think it's you, Jolene. I'm actually here. I can hear you.
All right. Oh,
There
sorry
we
about
go.
that.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. That
That's
really stunk.
okay.
Well, in case that happens, let me just say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with me here on the Happy Time Craftcast. I love everything that you're up to. I love what you have to say. I love your point of view and your perspective. And something that really is sticking with me today from what you said is you talked a little bit about the community of our followers and making them also feel loved. And I feel that way about mine. And I just appreciate being reminded that I want to make sure that they know that because I honestly feel that way. So thank you for planting that little seed. And thank you for being with me. I'm so grateful.
Yes, thank you. This has been awesome. And I just want to encourage people because I did not mention this. Don't get discouraged with the process of thrifting. Be open to not only local
Mhm.
thrift stores or community thrift stores, but also there's online auctions, there are estate sales, and it's not necessarily when you say estate sales, sometimes it's relocation that's the reason for the estate sale. But there's lots of
Right.
opportunity in the secondhand market, eBay, Etsy. Try all of it until it makes sense. And you don't have to buy big pieces. You can start with something small, but give it a shot. So, Jolene, I know it looks like you're frozen again. Well, hopefully you can hear me. I'm not sure if you can or not. I just want to thank you so much. It's been so fun just chatting with you. I can't thank you enough. And I'll see you on TikTok. I think I'm going to leave. I think that we got disconnected. But thank you, everybody. And thank you so much, Jolene. I appreciate you so much for including me in your show. I'll see you.